Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes. I'm back, baby. I was on a nice little hiatus, and I appreciate Brisco having a lovely time with Adam Best last Wednesday. If you loved that, I'm sorry, because I'm back, and now I got to ruin it for all of the listeners. Yet here I am. Brisco, how are you?
I mean, worse than I was last week, but overall still pretty good. I think that if I go ahead and put in a call to Adam, I'm pretty sure I can get you a mandatory day off tomorrow so he and I can return to our Wacky Wednesday vibe. I didn't realize, and if I would have seen what his entire fit was on Wednesday ahead of time, we could have been wearing almost identical outfits, same exact hat, very similar shirts. So, you've always kind of prided yourself on being like this fashionable sports media figure, and you got played out of your own house, dude. Like you just did. Are those fish on there?
Yeah, there's salmon and stuff. I'm trying to show the mics in the way.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm wearing just some these are my relaxing my hangout. Thank you, Richard. These are I got some pineapples on here. These are like sweat shorts, but they are sort of Hawaiian in nature. Huh. That's the energy I'm bringing to Tuesdays and Stew. You're rocking a polo, and that's your prerogative.
Yeah. I have some fun stuff I want to talk about at the end of the show that Brisco, you'll enjoy. Instead of this or that this week, I have family reunion, and I have a funny video that we can play of some of the things we do there. But we got Chiefs talk to talk about. We have a lot of Chiefs news to talk about. But before we get that,
you've been gone for a couple of pieces of news. They traded up for Xavier Worthy and then traded up for Kingsley in the second round. Go ahead.
I missed 1 week. All right. But before you tell the Chiefs news, DraftKings is offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for new users. New customers can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with our code Arrowhead. The best part is that you will receive your rewards even if your first bet loses. So if you're like me and you lose a lot, this will help you out, and it doesn't really matter. Using our code Arrowhead not only gets you these great bonuses, but also directly supports our podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Arrowhead to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. All right. Kathy, we stopped. Your eyes are fine now. Kathy, we stopped showing.
I don't like how aggressively Kathy in the comments was begging us to stop showing our I'm not even our butts. Like, it was just sort of, we're showing off our shorts.
Yeah.
And if that's the problem for you, I don't want to lead anybody to stumble, but I mean, bam! Anyway.
Yeah. All right. We don't need to either. Do you want to start with the Raiders trash talk with the Bengals kind of mixed in for good measure?
Sure.
Do we want to talk about Chiefs training camp? Where do you want to start this thing here, Brisco?
I mean, I've talked about some of those things that have happened over the last month or so, but it feels like you. Well, actually, I already heard what Jim Rome had to say about the Kermit puppet and the Raiders trash talk and everything. So I actually feel like I have heard your take on it because I watched him do it like a 2-minute video.
I hate that was such a good joke. That was such a great bit.
It's real. Like, it's very true, though. I watched the Jim Rome take on it, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is like watching Sterling, but a few years before he goes to artificial hair dye. I think Romy might also be getting a little Just for Men on his radio legend, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe getting a little Just for Men around his sort of it's not even really a goatee. It's because I think it's the same width the whole way around. It's just sort of like a little life wrapped, a little rubber band shaped and kind of size, little circular thing around his mouth. I think he's dying that also, which is a tough look. I think embrace the gray.
You know, sometimes you got to hang on. I'll be there sooner rather than later, considering I'm already getting some grays in my lettuce.
But you're gonna embrace that.
Oh yeah, I'm
not
gonna have some great
any
salt and pepper.
Yes, absolutely. That's all I ask for is that it when it gets here that I still have enough hair to embrace the salt and pepper look like that. And Rome has the hair for it. I don't know, man.
For me,
when you have somebody watching your great take about the Kermit pup that the Raiders brought out, and all they can think about is, did he draw on his goatee today? I just think it's time to do something different. And as Adam and I talked about on Wednesday, I'm extremely pro Joe Burrow's wild hairstyle. Like, I am pro making a move to make yourself feel better. I just think maybe Rome just shave and bleach. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll get to the in-sync quarterback of the Bengals in a moment. But I want to start with, of course, the
Slothy
Raiders
asked
hate.
about beard dye hate. Sorry, Sterling. I don't believe in ignoring the audience. Slothy says, "What's the beard dye hate? I dye my beard. I dye it red and yellow because of Chiefs." As a fashion choice, 100% go for it. Rome in particular, it just wasn't very good work. I would love to see Slothy Styles red and gold beard. That sounds like absolute majesty. You were saying, Sterling?
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I'm good. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get this out. We're good. Okay. Now I know how like Adam Best feels when I did the show with him. I think what the Raiders did started off as a joke. It was funny. I get it. The fans were having fun. They thought it was to poke the bear, if you will, but that's the fans. And then you get a 7th-round rookie involved. You are the last dude, the absolute last dude who should be taking a shot at the Chiefs, and specifically Patrick Mahomes. Like, you don't see Max Crosby out there holding puppets up and laughing about this. A 7th-round rookie. Dog. You're probably going to get cut and miss the 53-man roster, and you're out here taking shots at the best player in the world. What are you doing, guy?
Sorry. Have you seen the Jim Rome clip?
No, I've not. But
It's crazy.
The point remains. You can't get drawn in like that. And part of it's Antonio Pierce's fault. I love Antonio Pierce. Oh, my God.
Oh, this is delightful. I can't believe I get to play the other side of this here. This is
No, I love Antonio Pierce. And what he said from, March, fine. Didn't have any issues with it. But you're trying to get back this bad boy Raiders mentality. Fine. Great. Dandy. Love it. But you're a 7th-round rookie. You got to make sure where there's a line, you know where it's at. This was over the line because now you poke the bear. What does Mahomes do? He keeps track of things. How often does he talk about it? Very rarely. You think he ain't going out for a K and 10 tutties the next 2 games against the Raiders? You bet your ass he is. This is the difference. When Antonio Pierce is talking about the Jordan rules, I have no issues. He's not talking about injuring Patrick Mahomes. He's not talking about being dirty with Mahomes. He's talking about making him feel you. Get a little bit there, little there. What the Detroit Pistons did with Michael Jordan. You're trying to get the mental edge there. I'm fine with what Antonio Pierce said. What's dumb is saying you have the recipe. In March, after the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl in your house. They won the Super Bowl in your house before the Raiders ever won a playoff game there. That's soft. That's Charmin Ultra Soft. Read the room, guys. You have the recipe. Is the recipe that you showed the NFL getting 2 defensive touchdowns in a game and not completing a pass in the second half? If that's the recipe, that's the Russell Wilson in the kitchen recipe. It's cooked. You got lucky. Mahomes is 10-2 in the past 12 games against your sorry-ass team? Congrats. I think it's soft. Like, I don't mind the Raiders trying to get back the Raider mentality and the black and gold. And when you see red, you want to hate red. Fine. That's fun. I like rivalries. And we'll get to the Bengals in a moment. But the Kermit the Frog puppet, grow up, man. And by the way, Andy Reid's response, top tier. Sorry, we don't really spend much time with puppets here at our training camp. We're too worried about winning. He doesn't give a hoot about that. You hang out with your coloring books and your puppets. You talk your jokes while the Chiefs win their third straight Super Bowl. Brisco, floor is yours.
Why is this Antonio Pierce's fault?
No, I think part of it is we have the recipe. When you see red, hate red. That's fine. I get what he's trying to do, but you have to have a separate conversation. I'm not blaming Antonio Pierce necessarily for this. My point is, you got to make sure your guys, especially rookies, they got to know the line. They got to know what gets Mahomes up and going when he's counting on his fingers. You got to know this. You think Max Crosby's thrilled that a 7th-round rookie's talking smack like that?
Obviously not. Definitely not. This is not good for the Raiders. Okay, obviously. To me, though, the issue here is that, and it gets a little bit less fun when this is true, but I do think that the person I'm going to put in the crosshairs here does deserve it. I think there's one person that actually does deserve that entire Rome is burning-esque rant there, because that's all true. I would go ahead and point out that the Chiefs have won a game in the Raiders stadium more recently than the Raiders have, because that's where the Super Bowl was. So all of that about like the Raiders mentality of being the bad guys, playing the villain, playing that up and getting their swagger back as an organization, I think that's a good thing they should be doing. I think we're agreeing on that. I think we're both kind of generally in that same headspace. The only person here who really deserves to get mother bleeped is the dumbass fan that brought that and handed it to a 7th-round rookie in the autograph line, because that's what's happening there. You have a fan that shows up. The fan brings his Kermit puppet and his Make the Raiders Great Again hat and his t-shirt of the AI-generated Mahomes kissing a ref at the 50-yard line. Like, really some of the childish stuff that makes sports less fun. There's fun childish, and then there's grow-up childish. Honestly, Andy Reid has joked about Mahomes sounding like Kermit the Frog. Of course, that's friendly, right? There's a very different entire energy behind that. But the person that actually started this was the Raiders fan being an edgelord in Edgewood, or where do they actually practice? It's something close. That mentality and the idea that the pair of Raiders fans then executed the 1-2 punch to make your team the punchline of the beginning of NFL training camp. You have the guy that brings the puppet. Look, man, the rookie picked it up and put it on. I don't even think he ended up doing a voice or anything. He was unfortunately really in the wrong place at really the wrong time, because maybe 40 guys on the 90-man roster would not have touched that puppet. Maybe 80 guys on that roster would not have touched that puppet. But in the moment, your team's home practices and a guy hands you this while you're there trying to interact with fans and sign some autographs for some kids and stuff. I don't really feel... I feel a little bad at this point for Taylor, because he has become the focal point of something that he was handed an object, he put it on and shouldn't have, to be fair. But now he's at the center of all of this. The thing I can't believe is that there is a Raiders fan so delusional that he shows up to training camp looking to create that moment while wearing a shirt I would be embarrassed to see on a person I was walking around with in public. Far out of Kansas City. If I saw someone wearing that shirt in any way, shape, or form, I'd be like, oh, that's a person that I'm just going to make sure I don't have to interact with here today. That guy brought all of that with him to Raiders camp. It would have been better for everybody on their side if Taylor would have avoided that. Very hard to know how that all went down at the time. It's unfortunate, though, because the players were trying to do something nice for the fans. And unfortunately, in this instance, one of the fans let him down. Two of the fans, in fact. Imagine posting that and thinking it was going to be epic for you.
Yeah, who posts that and think, yeah, we got them.
Yeah,
we
posted.
We sure got them.
Rivalries back. Yeah, they've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 45 minutes, but look at this puppet.
Yeah, which kind of brings me into the next team I want to talk about in a little different light here.
Yeah,
but I think
totally
it still rings true. Where when teams play Kansas City, I'm convinced teams care more about beating Kansas City than actually winning the Super Bowl. I'm convinced that when teams play would you say?
I disagree with that. I think that's ridiculous.
I'm being slightly hyperbolic here, but I do think there's something to where when teams play the Chiefs, they view it as their Super Bowl. Like, if the Super Bowl is 1A, then beating the Chiefs is 1B. Because the Raiders clearly view it that way. And I think the Bengals view it that way as well. Maybe not the players, but I think a lot of the fans. I think one of the worst things, and maybe not one of the worst things, but the fact that the Bengals won one time in the playoffs, one time, you'll hear all the damn time on the X, on social media, about that one victory over the Chiefs, right? You hear about it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Chiefs have won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
The Bengals didn't even win the Super Bowl that they beat the Chiefs in because they were too thrilled about beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that was their mountaintop. And that's what I find so interesting and fascinating is all of this Bengals and Raiders. It's all in regards to the Chiefs. It's never about them winning a Super Bowl. It's all about trying to take down Kansas City. Now, I get it. Kansas City are the back-to-back reigning champs. They're going for the three-peat, all that stuff. But you still got to beat the other teams, too. You still have to beat the best team in the NFC. Like, you think the 49ers are just sitting back laughing right now saying, you know what, if any of these teams beat the Chiefs luckily in the playoffs, that was their victory. That was their Super Bowl. They're not prepared for us. Like, I just find this whole thing very fascinating that Joe Burrow, great quarterback, great 2 years in the NFL. I say 2 because he didn't finish the other 2. He's had a great 2 years in the NFL. I find it a little weird that his entire career so far has been told from one playoff victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. One playoff victory so far has defined his playoffs. When you look at Josh Allen, people are like, yeah, well, he chokes. Josh Allen's been phenomenal in the playoffs. He's actually been way better than Joe Burrow. But because he lost a game where his head coach was a dumbass, somehow that makes Joe Burrow better? Like, I just don't understand this, I guess, in my opinion, this fascination where Joe Burrow, because he had one great playoff game, or should I say one victory over Mahomes in the playoffs, where Mahomes, quite frankly, had his worst half of his entire NFL career, then all of a sudden now Joe Burrow's in the same category. Like, this just blows my mind, and I get so frustrated by it, and maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe I'm the one taking crazy pills. But I'm also just thinking here, because it was the only guy in the AFC who has ever taken down Patrick Mahomes, since Tom Brady, obviously, that we have to just sit here and applaud the man. Joe Burrow is a really good quarterback. Can he win a Super Bowl? Can he finish a season more than 50% of the time? Can we see what he looks like this year coming back from a major hand injury? Like, I get the hair and he looks like NSYNC, or he's trying to be Eminem with the Guess Who's Back. Like, I feel like part of this is just me saying Josh Allen sometimes gets unfairly hated against, and part of it's almost because that Joe Burrow one time won a playoff game against Patrick Mahomes.
I want to go to your first point first and then circle back on Burrow here in a second. The reason that I don't think Chiefs fans, maybe as much as just about anybody, should understand the concept of somebody else being your Super Bowl, because the Chiefs got a whole lot of juice out of September 8th, 2017, when they went to Foxborough and the Patriots were dropping banners and the Chiefs won that game 42-27. Now, I do not remember every detail of the remainder of those seasons for both teams, but I do not remember the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl that year. Even though that was celebrated as like, wow, look at this turning of the page. You know, they've got their future lining up. But Alex Smith on opening night went to Foxborough and threw up 368 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt ran for almost $150 and a tutty. And that right there, that felt like a playoff win to kick off the season that way. We know exactly what that feels like. We know exactly how you end up there. If you are a team that will not be in position to win the Super Bowl, knocking off the villain of the NFL or America's team or the back-to-back champs going for a three-peat or whatever it may be, if you're not in the playoffs, if it's not literally a playoff game, it's not happening in January, then yeah, you, the Raiders or the Broncos or probably the Chargers or almost anybody but 5 teams in the NFL, that Chiefs game, especially if it's the Saints on national television, that's your chance to get a high-profile, high-visibility win over the team that everyone is talking about that has the most to stand on as any team in the NFL since the Patriots went back-to-back. That's earned. And so I don't even think the Chiefs have any reason to like look down on that fact. You just have to accept, yeah, you do have the biggest target on your back throughout all of this. Some fans will certainly, absolutely be blinded by their own minor victories like Chiefs fans were in 2017. There are Raiders fans, just, full circle. There are Raiders fans showing up with the Kermit the Frog Patrick Mahomes puppet at training camp, despite the fact that the Chiefs just went back-to-back by winning their second Super Bowl in 2 years on their home turf. That's delusional. That's bad fandom. You should not be in that headspace. But it happens whenever your standard of success is lower than the real contenders. The Chiefs fans and the Chiefs organizationally talk themselves into, we're really fighting for, we're going to win a playoff game this year. That's what's really going to happen is eventually we're going to win a playoff game. And then maybe we'll surprise some people with a couple of nice road wins and make a New York Giants, Eli Manning-esque run to the Super Bowl. That never happened. What happened was they got a playoff win. Boy, that sure was lovely. And then Mahomes happened and the league became about the Chiefs. So I don't think there's any question as to how that happens or why fans end up there. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you at this point, you simply must have the skin thickness required to know that, yeah, they're talking about virtual exhibition games at this point. Talking about a Christmas win when, again, the Chiefs went on to not lose again last season. That's on them. You don't have to engage with that.
Well, and that's my point. I agree. And actually, I understand where you're coming from because I remember that game very well, which is going to your point, how when you play the reigning best team or the best team in the league, how you're going to remember those games more and they might mean a little more because I was in Big Charlie's Saloon in Philly. I have South Philly. I remember going with a Giants fan, a Jets fan, and then me, a Chiefs fan. We went to Big Charlie's Saloon in South Philly.
And I bet you are all rooting against the Patriots.
We all were, and it was great. It was
happens
awesome.
when you're the best.
But
teams with no affiliation, like the Giants the Giants and Patriots obviously had their history, but
and the Jets
that
too.
regular season game was not going to. The Jets are in the division, so I'm not even worrying. The Giants don't need the Patriots to lose to Alex Smith in week 1, but it's nice to watch Tom Brady lose. For 31 fan bases, it's nice to watch Patrick Mahomes lose.
And it was awesome, but my point was the fact that was great.
Yeah.
We loved that. But I wasn't going around talking smack to Patriots fans after that for the rest of the year. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I feel like the difference is. I wasn't talking about it 4 years later, 3 years later that it seems like Bengals fans are doing. Or like Raiders fans did after. Like that's the difference is the understanding. And maybe because I'm different than I'm built different. Maybe because I understand that, there are higher aspirations here.
You're 7 years older and have watched your football team be incredibly good since then.
Exactly. Maybe I'm just more mature. Maybe it's because the Chiefs have a really strong history, right? They're considered a historical team where maybe the Bengals really aren't. You look at their trophy case and it's a lot of cobwebs. They're still waiting. Maybe that's the difference right there.
On the Burrow front, it's a similar thing. We've talked about this, I think, specifically, and like right now it's CJ Stroud. The battle for the new thing or for the best challenger is always kind of what gets the extra narrative boost, because for a while, not that this is a good metric for good sports talk. In fact, I think more often than not, it is an avatar for bad sports talk. But it's the most popular show that does this. For a while, you could do a segment on First Take about Patrick Mahomes versus his 3 peers, whoever would have been in his first season. Or is Patrick Mahomes the new face of the NFL in the midst of that $55 grand MVP campaign? That entire season, it would be, whoa, look at this guy. Last time we saw him, he was throwing picks in the Big 12. He sat behind Alex Smith and he had a spark there in the last week of the regular season. Most of the NFL world wasn't really watching that. And so now we're seeing this guy, absolute rocket ship. It was cool to be high on Mahomes early. Then you see the typical arc that everyone not named Brady or Manning eventually goes through. And Rodgers has been obviously excellent for a very long time. But you don't really get to be unquestionably great as a quarterback in the NFL. Everybody goes through some sort of cycle of questioning that. And so you do get Mahomes against the Bengals, and it's like, oh, Lou Anarumo, huh? Like maybe something's been figured out here. Or you know what? My hot take this offseason is that I'd take Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or whoever it's going to be, Lamar Jackson, above Patrick Mahomes. Now that is so foolish that no one's making that case anymore. Not really. I guess Harbaugh said something about we believe Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback in football. He's the head coach, and he's won a ring, and he can say nice things about his quarterback, whatever. It would have been crazy if you'd be like, no, we think he's the second best quarterback in football behind Mahomes. Yeah, pretty clear drop off from 1 to 2, but we can win with 2. We think we can make it work. Head coach.
It's your head coach. Sean Payton's going, yeah, we love Bo Nix. We think he's the best quarterback. Like that's just what coaches do. Coaches
say things they don't mean sometimes. Andy Reid also does that. I hate to break the facade, but you're always going to have those kind of debates. But now that debate is foolish. Everyone's like, well, no, Mahomes is one. Like he'll be number 1 in the NFL 100, and he's number 1. All of this stuff, right? So you have to then create who can upset him. Eli Manning was never better than Tom Brady, but he did upset him twice. And I don't know, maybe this would make Bengals fans mad. And I say this as someone who frequently finds I am more Burrow positive than most Chiefs people. I found myself, I think, in that space. And it might just be that I like his vibe and his whole kind of aesthetic and everything, because I do, but Josh Allen is my preferred style of quarterback.
I'm team Josh Allen, by the way. Team Josh is number 2.
I can't help but love Josh Allen. Again, not that every NFL thing ends up coming back to NFL Street, but man, Josh Allen's an NFL Street 2 quarterback sent from heaven. I love him. I do. But even being the sort of Burrow positive side of everything that he brings to the table, if he's the Eli Manning to Patrick Mahomes' Tom Brady, Bengals fans should be thrilled. Burrow should be thrilled. Frankly, Eli Manning should probably be thrilled for that comparison, and Mahomes should be thrilled because he's Brady and maybe Brady plus at some point. We'll see. But that's the place that we're in now. Tom Brady, removing Mahomes in progress. Tom Brady retired as the greatest and most decorated quarterback in the history of the sport. Maybe Aaron Rodgers was more impressive, but Brady earned GOAT about as objectively as I think you can earn that over the course of your career, even though he was a game manager the first couple of months. Anyway, he always has to live with the fact that Eli Manning dunked on him twice in the Super Bowl. Twice. It happened 2 different times. He took Super Bowls from him. That's a legacy ding that Brady has to live with when dorks like us want to talk about why Mahomes is actually better than Tom Brady. It's not even really a good faith argument. It's just kind of something we say to be like, well, listen, he couldn't get past Eli. Imagine if he had 2 more rings. It's just kind of the mudslinging that I think perpetually happens around sports debates, and it's nice. I saw a comment come through a little bit ago. Jalen saying it's just a nice feeling, Josh, that the debate is finally over. It is. The next time this debate should happen should be in Mahomes' late 30s, when someone's like, all right, so, Mahomes he had a 92% completion percentage this year, but he's not going downfield as much. And there's this kid that just popped into the league that's thrown 80-yard bombs. Would you rather have 37-year-old Mahomes or 22-year-old Josh Burrow? I'm just combining the 2 quarterbacks.
Bronze Mahomes.
Would you rather have that should be the next. The next debate would you rather have Patrick Mahomes the second or Patrick Mahomes the third? And it's a very cool place to be in, because it means no Chiefs fan ever needs to go out into the world and defend their quarterback, because the world knows. That's
cool. Slightly before we move on to more training camp and Travis Kelce, there's something about the tight end realm I want to get into very briefly, but before that, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
You say you're a Joe Burrow guy. Like you like him more than most Chiefs. I like Jamar Chase more than most Chiefs fans. Now, I will also point out I've had the chance to interview him twice. First time, I'll admit it, he seemed disinterested, but I got a great clip of him. Second time was a little better. Then the third time was in person at the Super Bowl, and he was actually great. He grew on me, and I get his style. And honestly, the third time in person, it was engaging. Like, we went back and forth a little bit, and he was way more honest and open. And quite frankly, don't we all like when players are more open instead of just giving us player speak? Like, don't we enjoy that?
100%.
Like, aren't we just sick and tired of all just the cliches? Like, Jamar Chase isn't going to give you cliches. Does he say things that at times maybe are grating or annoying? Fine. That's fine. But part of me sits back and goes, you know what? I actually like that. One, again, it's not coach speak. And two, it makes this rivalry better. Don't you like when teams actually have a disdain or this actual anger almost towards each other instead of being all buddy? Wasn't the whole knock on LeBron for the longest time was, well, he's just buddies with everyone? Well, imagine if LeBron and, I don't know, Giannis seems like he just wouldn't hang out with anyone because Giannis wants to just destroy your soul when he's on the basketball court. Like, but like the two best teams just going at it and they actually don't like each other. That's fun. Like, I love when Jamar Chase was, I'm not going to name him. Now, he was joking about it, obviously. He had a smile on his face, but you can see it in his eyes and his inflection. He really hates the Chiefs. It's fun. I love this. Is it a little silly that he's acting like we're at Hogwarts and he's Voldemort over there, like he shall not be named? A little bit, but part of me says, you know what? Hell yeah. I like this. I love the rivalry. Talk the smack. Bring it on. So with the Bengals, at least, and Jamar Chase specifically, because he's such a damn good player, I'm like, hell yeah. You know what? That doesn't bother me. I like that.
Yeah, and maybe this is going to refire you up again, but it's more peer-to-peer than a Raiders fan bringing a Kermit puppet.
Yes.
Jamar Chase as an excellent player with some self-awareness in it, as you said. A little bit of a smile, and certainly he wasn't saying that Patrick Mahomes isn't the best player in football. He said, you know who I'm talking about. And the interviewer, much to their credit, said, no, I don't. That, and again, we're making some little distinctions from Kermit puppet to this. I'll make another distinction to when Jamar Chase did this in a way that was still fun, but I think less smart. Pat Who.
Yes.
Pat Who is, that guy doesn't even exist. This one from Jamar Chase is, he's great. I am not going to tell you he's not great, but I don't have to respect him in front of your camera.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to bow to him. He's their quarterback. You know who I want? I want my quarterback, Joe Burrow. That's a guy doing it in an authentic way that is connected to his teammate, that is coming from a place, like he said he's salty, right, in the clip. It's coming from the place where, to our previous Bengals conversation, that the Chiefs have either ended the Bengals season or gone on to achieve the things that they wanted to achieve, right? I mean, it's obviously been levels to it, and I've already forgotten who was playing quarterback for the Bengals in
Jake
that
Browning.
game last year. Who was it?
Jake Browning.
Jake Browning. Man, I may have never remembered that if you hadn't just said it.
If you think he's not on my dynasty fantasy football team for when Joe Burrow, I hope he doesn't, because I like beating the Bengals when they're
you pulled up that crash landing just
well,
at the end there.
no. But in case he gets injured, he has 50% of the time. But again, you like beating teams with their full strength. It makes it that much more satisfying and enjoyable.
But Chase is just bothered that he hasn't won. He's bothered that they haven't been as successful as they want to be, and they haven't been able to get past the Chiefs. It would be weird if that wasn't true. The weird thing on this one is that he said it flatly. He said it openly, and it circulated. And I promise, and again, Mahomes did Pat Who with the 2 rings last ring ceremony. Now we're doing this again. There's real vitriol there, and so maybe Mahomes will beating the Bengals again or getting ring 4. Maybe it will be say my name. Maybe he's gonna go full Heisenberg.
Kiss
I don't
the
know.
ring.
it really, maybe he'll lean that even further. But I promise you, Patrick Mahomes respects Jamar Chase, And I would imagine even respects that. I bet Mahomes watched that with a smile on his face. I think he might have watched the Kermit thing with a furrowed brow. That would be not a burrowed frow. That's the Bengals. But it does feel very, very, very different, in part because of the messenger, but even more importantly, by the way that Jamar Chase went about it. If the rookie safety for the Raiders would have been on video of somebody holding out the puppet to him and saying, "Hey, take the puppet," he would have gone, "I'm not doing anything involving that guy," and would have kept it moving. We all would have been like, that was smart. Good
Smart
avoidance. Because
guy.
You're acknowledging that you're afraid of him and that he's great, and that you're not going to lean into any of that. I think Chase did a good job on this one.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think we're in agreement on this one, which is nice.
Also,
nice.
Another little pivot off of that to something that Jalen just asked in the comments, that is asking if it's crazy or not that the Bengals are going to hardball Chase for his next contract. Great, man. Good look, go for it. Because obviously T. Higgins is where he's at. It sounded like it might be weird on the Chase front. And obviously you've got Burrow in the middle of all of that. The Niners and Bengals, these two teams that have the closest thing to an argument for not being, Chiefs stoppers or anything, but for being the teams that have given the Chiefs some problems or have been great along with the Chiefs. The Niners haven't, I guess, given the Chiefs problems, but the Niners have been independently great and then fallen short in the head-to-head. Those two teams are going to look really different next year, and maybe really, really different in 2 or 3. The Chiefs are pretty stable right now if left tackle works out. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's why I always like to point out the Chiefs had their opportunity to be the Chiefs the past couple of years when they were retooling, reloading, and they didn't. So if you're the rest of the NFL, you have to be just terrified that the Chiefs, who last year won the Super Bowl, Mahomes says it wasn't very fun. You won a Super Bowl and it wasn't very fun because the offense was not good. You had the worst wide receiver room in the entire NFL. And you're talking like you went 9-8 and maybe got bounced in the wild card, yet you are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Lamar is out there pounding sand right now.
I won't restate the whole thing because it's not from the show or whatever, but I was just trying to remember where I'd heard this. There was a really good, deeper conversation about the fact that this Chiefs team is its legacy is going to be the teams that they took Super Bowls from when it was their year and the Chiefs were kind of outperforming their own thing. I just remembered where I heard it talked about. It was on an excellent episode of Wacky Wednesdays on Arrowhead Addict with Adam Best and somebody. It wasn't you, but it was really, really insightful and really interesting. And frankly, I think the best Wacky Wednesdays that I've listened to so far.
All right, moving on. All right, let's get to training camp stuff before I get to Kelce, because I saw some questions about Nico Remigio.
I mean, it's a day that ends in Y, so.
We got to give the viewers what they want here. Nico Remigio is very interesting, and the more I watch him, the more I hear the Chiefs talk about him. And none of his mega goes, you want to hype up Remigio again, Josh. Give the viewers what they want. I think he's a better chance of making the 53 than we think. I could be wrong here, but Dave Toub loves him. They view him as a returner. And when you're talking about wide receiver 5 and 6, the odds of those guys making an impact as a returner is much higher than wide receiver 5 or 6 making an impact as a receiver in any given game, especially if we're talking about wide receiver 6 specifically here. The issue comes down to, can you have both a Louis Rezamet and a Remigio on your team? That's the question.
I think there are even more questions on top of that question.
Which is Sky Moore, who, okay. The Chiefs.
We're going to count the roster real quick. We're going to count through the receiver room and see where our numbers end up. Because 4 tight ends are a question. Running back 3 or 4 is a question. Lewis is a question.
Yeah.
Let's say Rashee Rice isn't getting suspended right now, just because we haven't heard anything on that in a little bit, right?
Yes.
Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, super locks. Justin Watson,
I think
essentially a lock at this point.
Yeah, I think it's
There's
like an erasable pin maybe, but like it's in pin.
Yeah.
Like you could scratch it out if you want to, but I think Justin Watson's are.
You could use rubbing alcohol to get it off of the whiteboard, but you use Sharpie, but you're almost certainly not going to need to. So that's 4.
Wow, I like this. I forgot Alan F. I forgot we came up with this. You did a great job with that. We are the Remigio Amigos. Love that one. But Slothy with a great one coming up here says Nico Returnio. Kind of like that.
Who's number 5 for you? Who's your 5th receiver at this point?
I don't think I have one. Like I think it's legitimately.
I'm saying let's fill out the roster. So like you're making the call today.
Oh man.
Or what the Chiefs will do. I'll say they brought back McCole Hardman.
Yeah,
I thought that had something to do with Worthy and Rice, and we'll see. But I think I might be leaning Hardman at 5 in a way that I wasn't when they initially re-signed him. But that's I'm floating that there.
Well, that's the guy that I think I have the most questions about. Like if
Hardman?
for me, almost more so. They know what he is.
I think I know exactly what McCole Hardman is.
But that's my point.
I don't know if it's super useful or not. But
That's my point. If Tony looks good,
sure,
he's making it over Hardman. If Tony looks bad, he ain't making it. If Sky Moore looks good, he's making it over Hardman. If he looks bad, he's almost the insurance policy as your wide receiver 5. That's basically what it comes down to. To me, it's all insurance. I don't think there's much he can do to really affect his stock of making or missing the team. It's all about the guys around him. It's all about the surrounding pieces at wide receiver. What they do, or should I say don't do, will affect if McColl's on the team or not. It's a hard spot, I think, for him to be in, right? Because there's not much I don't think he can do to really elevate his stock here. But that's kind of where I view Hardman. He's almost in purgatory of no man's land. Just waiting.
I hope that's how they're viewing it. I think that would be the right way to do it. I've waffled a little bit, just wondering on how much they value a receiver that they know they can put wherever they want in the offense. On the other hand, there was a great Xavier Worthy clip of him getting a great release and catching that pass over the middle when 2 receivers ran into each other. I slowed it down to check. The 2 receivers that ran into each other were Travis Kelce and McCole Hardman. If I had to guess who was in the wrong spot there, I would not guess Travis Kelce. But I also wouldn't have necessarily guessed McCole Hardman. You know, maybe I should have. I'm leaning that Hardman is the guy at 5, but I've never quit Kadarius Toney. I've tried and I've thought about it, but I've never been able to, and I'm still here not quitting now. And I might be. Here's what I'll say on the special teams front, because I think you were dead on this about receiver 5-6. I don't know if Sky Moore can contribute on special teams. I don't know if he has a special teams value right now. He's certainly not returning any punts. I don't think they're really seeing him even in the new kickoff rules. Maybe there's something there. We haven't really seen that in action yet. I haven't heard anything about him really working in camp in the return game. And I don't think you got him out there gunning on punts and everything. So if you're not going to be on the field unless 2 or 3 receivers in front of you get hurt simultaneously, and you're not going to be on the field on special teams, that's the player that's providing you the least this year. I still think there's a chance they talk themselves into one more year for Sky. It's all it's in his head. It's mental. It's comfort in the offense. And we're just going to try to redshirt him a year or something like that and try to keep him down the depth chart. I'm afraid that might happen. I think Remigio probably offers you more in 2024 than Sky Moore does right now. But I really think that Kadarius Toney's making this team, man. Health as an outstanding factor always. I think it's happening. I really do. I think he's back. And I'm not sure I ever thought he left.
All right. I want to get this comment from Anonymous Mango. This is good. If Nico Remigio was a drum manufacturer, he would be Gretsch. I know Sterling will appreciate this. I do. I actually own a Gretsch drum set. That's the drum set I typically play is Gretsch. It's good.
Is it a little undersized, but much loved amongst its community? I don't get the joke.
Also, Lewis says, but it's football, man. The Chiefs did the same thing to the Raiders with that stupid dance ring around DeRozie. Are you kidding me? And yet you call the Raiders childish, get real. Yeah, it's a play that worked, by the way. The Chiefs.
Yeah, and like John Gruden did a lap around Arrowhead, and like that just went poorly. I see that his pictures of a Raiders tattoo, so like I understand where we're coming from here. But like it's not football. A fan brought it, and that was dumb. And his shirt was childish. I mean, that should have been your first red flag there.
Slothy goes, we aren't mad about the trash talk. We're saying the Raiders shouldn't have poked the bear. Trey Taylor wrote a check that Max Crosby is going to have to cash. Yeah, that's my point. Max Crosby.
I don't even think that Trey Taylor should really be the recipient of your.
It's the fans. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's the fans.
He handed it to a rookie who was being nice to a fan, and it backfired.
I like this question from Tilly Train. Would Sky clear waivers and make it the practice squad?
I don't know. I really don't. I've thought about that a lot.
Because that'd be the best case scenario. I mean, that would be, okay, we don't think you're contributing this year. Who knows with Hollywood Brown, who's on a 1-year contract. Can we try and stash him?
It depends on how the rest of the league viewed him coming out of the draft. And here's the thing, is it feels like the change of scenery kind of thing is where Sky Moore is headed, and that he might be the player that most needs something like a change of scenery. The team that would be best equipped to receive Sky Moore and try to get the most out of him, that has shown a willingness to do that with similar types of players, would be the Kansas City Chiefs. And so maybe like Indy has it, maybe Chris Ballard like sees something there. But unfortunately, to your question, Tilly, my guess for where Sky Moore is at right now is that he would not make it through to the practice squad, but that he would not get you anything of significance in a trade.
Well, your hope is, and almost the same with Kadarius Toney. I don't want to say hope necessarily, but if they're on the outside looking in, right, you don't think they're going to make it. Instead of eating the money, since it's guaranteed, right, rookie contract and Toney's is the same money whether you cut him or not. You're almost hoping you trade him for a 7th rounder, and then he's off the books. And maybe that
or for somebody else's disappointing defensive end prospect, or like the Chiefs haven't reinvested anything in their D line in a little bit. You know? But
what I was saying with those guys specifically in Sky or Toney, you get the money off of the books, and maybe that can help give you a couple extra to extend Creed Humphrey, to eventually, hopefully, extend Harrison Butker. Right, if his contract's coming up after this year, I believe he's
entering the last year. Yeah, it seems like he and Creed are probably happy.
And I'd imagine Butker comes back. He's, I think, the best kicker right now, and him and Justin Tucker, best kickers.
Can I respond to Lewis real quick? I just saw this come down, and before Lewis leaves, he says, "I respect the Chiefs. I'm a Raider fan, and you guys are right. It was stupid for that fan to do that. Very childish. I admit some of our fans are delusional. You guys have a great day." Lewis, you have a great day. Yeah. That is so reasonable as a response. And if you're still here, Lewis, again, I want the Raiders to be villainous. I really do. I have a deep love for the autumn wind is a pirate. Like that, to me, and I think to so many Chiefs fans, is quintessential NFL rivalry stuff.
Yeah.
I've also never really had like a bad experience with a Raiders fan in real life, for what it's worth. I love that. I want that. It was one fan kind of peed in the punch bowl for everybody, and hopefully with reasonable Raiders fans like Lewis roaming the earth, maybe Raider Nation can try to get their median to a more acceptable place, because that totally reasonable. Lewis, appreciate you watching.
Yeah, appreciate you, Lewis. And also, if you haven't checked out Murph with Raiders Fan Radio, I love Murph. Great guy. Great dude. Murph, M-U-R-F. I'm sure you know him if you're a Raiders fan, but he does great work. Phenomenal work. And we'll have him on, I'm assuming, once or twice this year, just to kind of get the AFC West roundup going, like we like to do the little pregame show sometimes. So you got at least a good Raiders dude to follow and get your news from. All right, so we talked about wide receivers, a little up in the air, 5 and 6, a lot of ways it can go. I don't have a strong feel yet, but it does sound like Nico Remigio is at least getting talked about a good amount. I like that. The cornerback room is the most fascinating, I think, battle outside of obviously Kingsley and Wanya Morris at left tackle. But I think the cornerback room right now is interesting in the fact that Dave Toub said it's wide open. Like, we all almost assumed it was Joshua Williams because he's the incumbent coming in. Jalen Watson's injured. He's yet to practice. Obviously, that's a big deal. But Najee Johnson was getting some runs with the one. Joshua Williams was getting runs with the one. Kelvin
Jalen
Joseph,
Watson would be and he will be whenever he gets off the PUP list.
This has been best case scenario for him, honestly, that no one's stepped up and took it. And then Kelvin Joseph, the veteran, bounced around cornerback. I think he was with Seattle last I remember.
Second round pick of the Cowboys a few years back.
Yeah, and he's been on like 4 teams now. I mean, he's been getting some run with the ones. And I heard his name a lot in OTAs as well. That's a kind of a name, a dark horse name to keep an eye on, is Kelvin Joseph. But what is your takeaway on this? Because I just maybe assumed that Joshua Williams was the guy. I'm still leaning Williams is the guy, but part of me is a little disappointed because he looked great last year in limited action. So I assumed that would translate over to training camp and getting his feet going for a full starting role. But clearly it has not, at least in regards to the words that Dave Toub has said.
Steve Spagnuolo?
Yeah, well, I meant Spags, not.
I thought you said Tobe the first time, and I was like, I'm just gonna let it go. And you said it again.
I meant Steve Spagnuolo. Yes,
I get it. You did a lot of hours of yapping. I think that first quote, and if you give me 1 second, I can tell you exactly when it was. But I think that comment from Spags was either right before the pads came on or in the very first day or two. It was before pads, right?
It would have been last Monday, if I'm not mistaken. It would have been the 22nd.
So I think it was before pads came on. But even if it wasn't, they've had like 3 or 4 padded practices at this point. It does not bother me one iota that it appears to be a fully open competition. We've also heard from Joshua Williams, who went up there and said, yeah, I'm working for it. Like I want to get this job, which I think is the right thing to do. The inverse, I understand where you're coming from. Like, it'd be kind of nice if it was just like, yep, we know who the number 1 and number 2 corner on this team are. But in training camp, when even Spags can't hide that obviously Trent McDuffie is their number 1 corner, like he said verbatim, he was like, you know who number 1 is. Everyone knows who number 1 is. But when you're talking about cornerback 2, you may as well let that be a competition, because I also lean Josh Williams. I think he's probably the most likely answer there. But Jalen Watson's played some very good football and did it almost all season with a torn up shoulder last year, which is impressive for a number of reasons. Both like impressive to be able to play football at that high level and impressive to be able to play football. Well, that's in your anyway. That battle to me is only good right now. If the last week of camp comes around and there has not been a clear hierarchy, then I think I might be where you're kind of coming from. But the fact that we haven't even seen Watson on the field yet, that Najee Johnson has left practice twice with injuries now, and once was reportedly precautionary, and then it was the hamstring. This doesn't sound super serious, but is different than the knee concern that he hurt last year in camp. You got to have 5 guys right now that you're happy to see getting reps. And I think the Chiefs do have very close to that. And then you have to have 3 that you really, really, really trust when the season comes around. So ultimately, the number 2 corner matters. The top 3 matters even more, though. McDuffie is 1. Another thing to keep in mind as it relates to the corners, Shamari Connor seemed like he was probably going to get most of the work in the slot. I have some questions about that and some greater concerns like we may have talked about a couple of weeks ago, just because you have the best slot corner in football. It hurts me to take him out of the slot. Like, if you have the best right tackle in football, don't put Mitchell Schwartz on the left side just to do it. That's not a great comparison, but I'm reaching for the sake of like my argument about keeping McDuffie in the slot.
I'll give a slight pushback here. I know we're a little bit up against it. There's 1.5 thing I want to get to before we get out of here. The thing with McDuffie was he learned how to play slot corner last year, he said. He's used to playing the outside
at it,
and he turned into all-pro. So I get what you're saying as far as taking him away from where he might be best, but I'm not convinced that he's not just as good on the outside, because
it means way less to me it's less about McDuffie than it is about the sum of the parts, which is why if Spag says our best 5 DBs include Shamari Connor in the slot, I'm listening. I get it, right? Like I understand there's an argument there, but if you can give me the best slot corner in football and just let Watson and Williams do their thing on the edges, or Joseph and Williams, or whoever it ends up being, that's still very appealing to me. McDuffie's also great playing on the outside, where he will be one of the outside corners. Like he's going to be there in base packages. He only kicked in last year when they needed to go to 3 corners. So all of that to say, though, Justin Reed being out for this long, I wonder if that's going to end up, especially if he misses all of camp, which Nate Taylor said is very much on the table, that Reed could miss the entirety of camp. The process of all of that, I wonder if it pushes Connor back to safety more and you do see more of that corner rotation, or if you keep Shamari Connor mostly working in the slot when you're going 3 corners, and then it's McDuffie and the other. Regardless, you've got to have 3 guys that you are happy to have in coverage like that once the season gets here. And I think the Chiefs having more contenders for that is only a good thing.
Jalen Butler says the secondary is sketchy. Luckily, Spags is there to scheme it up. I think it's sketchy only right now because of the Justin Reed injury. I'm not necessarily concerned. I think there's a lot of depth overall. And once Reed's back, I think that it kind of solves itself, especially in regard to the Shamari Connor situation. Kathy asked, guys, any updates on Truman Jones, how he is doing? I've not heard about Truman Jones personally. I haven't heard much about it. Do you have any update in regards to Truman Jones, what you've heard from him?
BJ Thompson, maybe.
He's probably BJ Thompson.
Both long defensive ends from I think the same draft class. I think Truman's been out there practicing, as far as I'm aware. BJ Thompson has, I believe, been there, but certainly not practicing. He's on the it's a different list, I believe, that he's on. He is not like in the active roster in the traditional sense right now. I think Andy said early on in camp that he was off facilities. Someone asked if he was at home, and he said he's not at home, but he's not here. Like he's off going through that progress or whatever. So that's the most recent thing that I've like heard from Andy. That was more towards the beginning.
I'll hit Lewis one last question here before I move on here. How do we feel about the Chargers and Broncos? Just the AFC West as a whole, right? Where does the AFC West break down? Chiefs, obviously, I have winning the division yet again. I do have the Raiders second in the AFC West, Chargers third, Broncos fourth. I think the Broncos are competing for one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think the Chargers have a great quarterback. I think Ladd McConkey's a nice wide receiver. He might win Offensive Rookie of the Year because there's literally no one else to catch the football on that team. I think their defense is aging and overrated, while I think the Raiders are going to have a good defense. Really good weapons, a lot of 12 personnel, and if Gardner Minshew's the quarterback, I think you're looking at a 9 to 10 win season. If it's Aiden O'Connell, I think it might not be pretty. Maybe it's a 7-win season, but I do think defensive line, specifically with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, that defensive front's going to be salty. I think the Raiders are a pretty good team. I'm fairly high on the Raiders personally. I hate saying it because, it's the Raiders, but I'm an honest man. I think the Raiders have a pretty good team overall this year. So that's why I see it breaking down. Brisco, why do we have to do this every single time where people try and crown a new tight end whilst Travis Kelce is still playing? Someone goes, a podcast that has over 4,000 listeners or followers on Twitter says, has Sam Laporta already taken the mantle as best tight end in the league and in fantasy football? What? I know it's the Olympics, so gymnastics are happening right now, but this seems like even Simone Biles couldn't get through this one, because is Sam Laporta the best tight end in football? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't really care about fantasy. Also, not to keep sucking up the Raiders and Raiders fans, but I agree with you on all of that, and I'm happy to also gas up Lewis and the rest of the Raiders. That I think I have them too in the division right now. I don't know. I mean, I'll save repeating myself of all the things I said about Mahomes, about how he was clearly the best. Then there's always a conversation about contenders. Maybe it's nice that we're just getting a wrinkle on the George Kittle formula, though that was going around as well. I don't really care about fantasy. I don't know about. I care about fantasy. I play it, but I don't care about
fantasy
debating.
And real. It was a combo.
Right. I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just pushing that to the side. I don't know. I'm not in on the draft guides enough to talk about 2024 fantasy big boards yet. In terms of being actual players, somewhere along the line, people just decided they were not going to. Somewhere along the line, some people just decided they're never going to be Travis Kelce fans. They're never going to give him credit for the things that he has done. They're never going to understand. And it is a comprehension issue. It's a bit of a skill issue. You can do Kittle's a better blocker and Kelce's a little bit of a better receiver, or Kelce's a better receiver, but Kittle's more of a better blocker. You can do all of these crazy mental gymnastics that make you feel like you're doing something really intellectual and really forward thinking. Which tight end would you rather have? For a year, for a game, for whatever. If you're giving me the next 15 years, maybe I'll take Sam Laporta because he's a decade younger, right? But there's no reason to do this. This isn't good for Sam Laporta. It's not good for George Kittle. It's not good for your fantasy team. It's not good for the NFL. It's the only thing it's good for. And this is something we all need to be better at, myself included. The only thing it's good for is for your social media engagements. And sometimes, like the quarterback debates, to your FS1 viewers. And ultimately, when that's the thing that's driving the interactions, we're all screwed forever because the being right is not important. Being interactable is, and that is sending us all to a special sort of technological hell that I don't know how we're going to get out of.
Well, let me try and cheer you up before we get out. Richard has a video of me at my family reunion. We do an Olympics, basically. We do games where it's basketball, whole bunch of stuff. And here is the video of me trying to be an athlete. I'm the guy in red. Yeah, look at that, Brisco.
Here. high knees through the tires, going up over a hay bale. What's that? Is that a jump rope?
It's a jump rope. You got to do it 3 times. And then you got to pick up a kid. You got to wrangle a toddler.
Good 3 points of contact, at least there.
Yeah. Put it down
Good
in the
child
hula hoop.
security.
Child kind of fell a little bit. That's not my fault. And then run through. Look at that. Beat the young college kid. Still an athlete.
Wow,
Brisco.
he had years on you?
Oh, dude, 10 years. 10 years older. Still got it.
Listen, I'm glad you put Sam Laporta in his place because you are the greatest Holmes family reunion athlete.
It's actually Guthrie.
Still,
it was Guthrie. It's my mom's side. It's about 150 of us. It's electric. It's fire. I do this every single year. I think the Chiefs need to add this into their training camp routine,
especially like at a 10-10-10 practice or something. A light day, no pads.
Oh, it's great. It's great
with an obstacle course.
We do 3-on-3 basketball. It's 100 degrees. You're sweating. There are no subs. You're just sitting there dying. But we all were like, well, we were all good like a decade ago playing sports. So let's. And I'm one of the younger ones. You get the 40-year-olds who I feel real bad for. And we do that. We play pickleball, and it's volleyball, ping pong, and we get into it. So that's the Guthrie family reunion. 150 of us. Actually, former Chiefs practice squad player plays with us, goes every single year. He moved to Henryville, Indiana, tiny town. Guy named Ridge, great guy. Him and his kids go, and it's a lot of fun. We're open. You don't have to even be family. We'll invite folks sometimes just to come because it's an enjoyable day.
Feel free to invite me anytime you need somebody else for pickleball because I have had that pickleball itch, and I'm ready to paddle some balls. What?
All right, well, I guess we're going to get out while Brisco paddles some balls, end quote. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Appreciate y'all. Honestly, great time. I love this. You can tell this.
Let me restate it, Sterling. Let me just set the record straight. I'm ready to paddle some pickles. Is that better?
I'm sorry. I'm so glad, though, that the Chiefs season is coming around. Just the interactions, the enjoyableness of this is starting to really come back. We're not talking about random things anymore. Now we have actual stuff to talk about, and I like this. And I appreciate everyone who comes and hangs. I know, I'm a psychopath. If you want to give us a review, I'd like it. I'd appreciate it. That means a lot to us. Hopefully you guys like Brisco. Give him a like. Give him a review. Follow him on the X at JB Brisco. He's got KCSN coming up. Only Weird Games. Coming up in about a half hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Theoretically, yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. It could get weird. Until next time, until tomorrow, I'll be back with Adam Best. So until then, we are out.